Greg Isenhart kept Metro's astonishing baseball legacy going after Romero, becoming the first player in school history to earn all-district honors. His best season came as a junior, batting an incredible .426, driving in 27 runs, scoring 30 times, swiping 14 bases, and crushing 5 home runs. Isenhart batted .373 for his career and finished in the top 20 in hitting twice. He was a 2-time captain and MVP for the Roadrunners.
One of the hardest things to do today was try to figure out something to write and say that would really be impressive. The second hardest was getting up on the podium. I had a stack of 3x5 cards that I was going to bring, but I didn't bring them. It was all about, we've all had, everybody that's had children play in sports and Little League, they all have their stories, the silly things, you know, shirts on backwards, running wrong, and stuff like that. Well, I had everything from age 6 to age 16 on this stack of cards, but I didn't break them, so you guys, we won't have to worry about that. I'm joking, I didn't have to bring them down. 65 years ago, I used to sit out at Bear Stadium, if there's anybody here that's still familiar with it. The old Bear Stadium, I know where it is, right here. And watch the Bears play baseball. And at that time, just a little stadium with a little outfield fence, and you look out over that fence and you would see down here there wasn't much that night, except for the Tivoli building and the Tivoli sign. And it always kind of amazed me, that sign. I was kind of recognizing every time I go in. And even after that, you know, growing up in North Denver, you'd always see the Tivoli sign. I didn't, you know, realize back in those 65 years that 30 years from now, I would be sitting down here watching under that Tivoli sign my son play baseball. So the Tivoli sign became a little bit more meaning to me. And then I start by telling you that when Greg was a junior in high school, he had got a full ride scholarship to CSU for baseball. Almost literally before he was to go up there, they canceled the program, so he didn't have any place to go. Scholarships had been given out. It was too late. So finally, he was convinced that he could go down to University of Southern Colorado for a basketball scholarship, and he agreed if they let him play some baseball. So he was all set to go down there until Coach Hellman called him and asked him to come to Metro State, which he said, I'll do it, and maybe give it a couple of years and see what happens. Well, after 1 year, Craig said, I'm not going anyplace. I love it here. I love the program, I love the coaches, I love the staff, and I love the school. So he stayed. And he got to play baseball there with a bunch of really scrappy, good baseball players. Players that went around and beat DU, beat Regis, beat the Air Force Academy, beat Northern Colorado. They weren't supposed to do this. Metro State, but they embarrassed quite a few teams. And they went on, in 1984, they played DU in a big game to go to the World Series, College World Series playoff. And they beat the mighty DU, and they really had a good baseball program well back then, because they hadn't dropped football, and so they just played the two major sports. So they went to Canyon City College in Phoenix, and they lost that game, 2 games, and were eliminated, which was pretty devastating, but nobody expected them to do anything anyway. Well, they lost each game by 1 run. And so they could be pretty proud of what they accomplished that year. And all of this, Greg playing here in Metro was really good for me because I worked right downtown. So I got to see all the home games. And a lot of them, and that was really great. And Ernie, right, we got to see all these home games. Ernie, Greg's dad. And go back a ways. Well, eventually, Greg and so I got to enjoy his college career right along with him. And then Greg graduated and went on to develop his own business, which he has today, and is considered in my eyes very successful. So I'm truly delighted and honored today to present for induction into the Sports Hall of Fame a great baseball player, my son, Metro State's very first all-NAIA district player, Greg Isenhart.
You know, they say you have heroes in life. There's my hero. My dad. My father was a Denver policeman for 31 years and never called in sick one day. Then he went on to work for the Department of Revenue for 18 more years and never called in sick one day. There's a lot of people I want to thank here today. There's a lot. Now I'm going to be pretty brief in this. First of all, I'd like to thank my family. They're sitting right down here. They have been my rock and my support in my 53 years on this planet. And without them, whether it's business or sports or anything that I've ever done, I would have not been successful without them. My mother, my father, my best friend, my brother, my sister, my uncle who's like a brother to me, used to sit out at center field at TU and give them nothing but trouble. I thank you for coming. My Aunt Kathy, and of course I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about my wife and my son. Without them, we're nothing, are we? I'd also like to thank the coaches that coached me. One of them is sitting here right now. Raise your hand. That's Coach Eric Larson. Eric was my coach. Eric was in the Hall of Fame. His plaque is up there. He was a great mentor, a great friend, and he was with me for a long time. And daddy, sons, errors, whatever would happen, I could always count on Coach Larson to be there for me. He was a great friend, and I'm so glad you're here today to help Gary and I get an induction. Thank you for coming. Coach Bill Hellman, who's also up on the wall, was instrumental, the first athletic director, and also one of the first coaches here, and was my coach, and recruited me and got me to come here. He sent me a beautiful text today to voicemail. Unfortunately, couldn't make it. I want to thank Coach Bill Hellman. If it wasn't for Bill, I would have never ended up at Metro, and it was one of the best decisions I ever made. So Bill, thank you very much. Also, I want to thank Bob Dampier. He was our pitching coach. I didn't interface much with Bob, but he was a great guy, a character, funny, and back in the old days, he always had that big jaw red man in, didn't he, Eric? You couldn't do that now. He'd spit that stuff at me all the time. I go, Bob, quit spitting at me. Knock it off, will you, please? Great guy. I also want to thank all my teammates. You know, I stand up here and I get this honor today, but I got to be real truthful with you. The best baseball player in the room right now is not me. It's Gary Romero. Gary Romero has been a lifetime friend of mine for 35 years. I met Gary the day I walked out on that field, pretty discouraged. I lost my scholarship at CSU. Was told I really couldn't play baseball down in Southern Colorado down CSU Pueblo. And he became a friend for the next 35 years. Gary Romero unquestionably is the best baseball player I ever played with. Nobody had the 5 tools that Gary Romero had. But what's more important about Gary, you all should know this, nobody has more character, more integrity, or has been a better friend to me than Gary Romero. I want to reach out to him. It is truly an honor. Kurt, Dino, all of you both, thank you for coming today. It means the world to me to have you all here. I want to congratulate the fellow inductees, the 2006 soccer team. Yeah! Look! Right on. My fellow inductees, I'm so proud of you. It was a long time ago. It took 31 years to get in here. But let me tell you something, it was well worth the wait. I can't tell you how proud I am. I'm degreed here, I'm proud of it, I'm at the games, I saw Dr. Jordan last night, I've become friends with Jim. I'm so proud of what I did here from an academic standpoint. I love this school. And I love the faculty that helped me get my degrees, and I've gone on for 31 years. Worked in Phoenix, Denver, San Francisco, got to work for the Disney Corporation. Loved it all. But there's one person today that I have to pay homage to, and thank more than anybody else out there. He's in that picture, the team picture. Along with my other best friend, Dan, I met Michael James Hornberger on this very baseball field in the fall of 1980. Mike and I went on to have a friendship that lasted 35 years. He was like another brother to me. You only have one, and I love him more than anything in the world, and his sister too. But I found if you could have a soulmate, another man, it was him. The three of us were the best of friends. Mike didn't play much here. If you look at his stats, they weren't very impressive. But he was my best friend. And sadly today, he's not here to enjoy this day with me and Gary. Gary, you knew Mike? Mike passed away last June. He's the most courageous individual I've ever met in my life. 17 years he battled something that none of us can possibly fathom. And I was with Mike the day he passed away. If God ever gives us an ultimate teammate, he was mine. And I know somewhere, up on that diamond in the sky, my best friend from Metropolitan State College, who became my lifelong friend and worked with me all across the country, is looking down on me with a big smile. I loved him. And I love what this university has done for me. And I congratulate all the inductees and anybody associated with this school. One last person, a couple other people I'd like to recognize. Dr. Jordan, your work here has been amazing. The blend of athletics and academics has been incredible. Rand Regan, what you've done reaching out to us old alums and inviting us back has been simply amazing. John, wherever John is, thank you, John. John has been a blessing in my life the last year. It's just opened up the campus to my son and me. And then last but not least, this fine lady right here. I have so much admiration for Joan, it's not even funny. She's a little pit bull, isn't she? I'd say we all give Joan a round of applause. If there's class, she's full of it. One quick story, her husband, Dan, was my freshman hitting coach here. And he worked and worked and worked with me and made me a good hitter. I want to thank you all for coming today. It's been my honor to represent the university. And I thank you all, and fellow inductees, right on. Thanks for your time today.